Hey everybody, and welcome back to Just a Mental Note. Today we're going to be covering one of my favorite acronyms, and it's a coping skill acronym that is called ACCEPTS. Now, ACCEPTS is an acronym that is part of a therapy called DBT, or Dialectal Behavioral Therapy. This type of therapy was created by Marsha Linehan, who is a mental health professional, but is also a person who lives with borderline personality disorder. And this type of therapy was created specifically for people with borderline by a person with borderline. But that doesn't mean that these skills that I'm going to be going over can't help you if you don't have borderline. I think that these skills that I'm going to be going over, this acronym, can really be helpful for anybody. And I think that with a lot of the DBT skills. DBT really focuses on distress tolerance, which means how much emotional distress I can handle, which is where this comes in. This is part of the distress tolerance part of DBT. And I think that that is a skill that everybody could really learn. These skills in particular are supposed to help you distract yourself or direct your attention elsewhere while not making your current crisis, current situation, whatever's distressing you worse. So these are really distraction skills. And I think that distraction has a big part in mental health because a lot of times you have these overwhelming feelings. And yes, you should deal with your feelings. You should go through them. You should understand why you're feeling them. But I mean, especially in BPD, there's a lot of feelings and you sometimes don't know why. Or sometimes the emotions are too intense at that moment for you to really try to figure it out and think through it. So you just need a way to distract yourself. In DBT, they really think that it's all about acceptance and change. And while that can be a little contradictory, it's accepting the bad stuff and accepting when you are in that bad mental state and learning how to deal with it. And then learning how to change your behaviors and all of those sorts of things. So that way, you don't go back into stress, if that makes sense. So this is really part of that acceptance. It's, I feel this way, okay, now what can I do about it? And this acronym gives you a whole list of things that you can do when you're in emotional distress to try to help you feel better. So the first letter in ACCEPTS is A, and that first letter stands for activities. This means that you go and you do an activity that takes your mind off of whatever it is that's distressing you. You can go color, you can read, you could go out and play with your dogs. You could do literally any activity that requires thought and concentration, so that way your thoughts are not focusing on your crisis. You're not focusing on your distress, you're focusing on something else. So that first A stands for activities. Find an activity that you can do that requires concentration, focus, thought, that can get your mind off of whatever is distressing you. The first C in ACCEPTS stands for contribution. And this means that you as a person do something to help somebody else. It could be something as simple as texting a friend and telling them that you're thinking about them, or something more involved like volunteering and doing that kind of work. It's any sort of contribution that you can make to make somebody else's day better, to make somebody else's life better, even just to make them smile. All of those sorts of things, any sort of contribution that you can make, any action you can do to make someone's life happier, easier, better, whatever it is, that's a contribution. And that is very helpful for people's mental health. When you're helping other people, it helps you a lot more than people think it does. The second C in ACCEPTS stands for comparison. And it is helpful. I'm not gonna lie, it's helpful. There's a reason it's in here, but I also think that this one should be used sparingly. And I will explain that in a minute. But comparison is when you compare yourself and your situation to somebody else that has it worse. I've been doing that a lot because it helps with gratitude. I am having a hard time in quarantine, but at least I have a house, I have food to eat, I have a husband that loves me, and I have my dogs. I compare my situation to people getting evicted or people who are quarantined completely by themselves, and it makes me feel better about my situation. It makes me feel gratitude for my situation. But I think that this could be a slippery slope. I think that it is can very easily become, oh, well, other people have it worse, so I can't feel bad. And that's not the case. Comparison in this sense is supposed to give you that gratitude, give you that perspective. But just because you feel gratitude and you have that perspective doesn't mean that all of your problems go away. This isn't you saying, oh, well, I haven't been evicted and I have food, so I'm fine and I have nothing to complain about. No, you're still in pain, you're still struggling. But comparing yourself to somebody who has it worse can help you feel better. The E in ACCEPTS stands for emotions. And this means that you do something, you pick some sort of activity, whatever it is, that will change your current emotional state. So if you are very sad, maybe you put on some happy music. If you are very angry, maybe you read like a very heartfelt, warming book. Those types of things. You do activities where, for me, a lot of times, any activity that will evoke some sort of emotion is usually connected to art. So I will journal, draw, listen to music, watch TV, watch movies, those sorts of things. But you have to do it in a way that changes your emotions. If you're super sad, you can't just turn on super sad music and cry. And while that's good, I do that too. For this specific acronym, for this specific coping skill, this emotion means that you do something that helps you get out of your current emotional state. So like I said, you turn on some happy music when you're really sad. You watch a really warm, heartfelt movie or read a really good, just like heart-wrenching book when you're angry. And those sorts of things can help your brain switch your emotions. And now we're on to P. And the P in ACCEPTS stands for pushing away. And this is a mental thing, it's not a physical thing. But this is you mentally push away the problem. You almost put like a wall in your brain and you're like, nope, not gonna talk about that. Or I've also heard of this image where you take everything and you stuff it in a little box and you close the box and you shove it under your bed and you don't think about it. And this is a lot easier said than done for most people. But if you can, a lot of times, just mentally get out of whatever is distressing you for that moment, when you go back to it, it's not as distressing. It's not as emotional because you were able to give yourself some of that space. The skills before this one are much more concrete. You go do an activity, you do something for somebody else, you listen to music to change your emotions, you compare yourself to somebody else. All of these things are very clear, what should you do? Whereas this push away is much more of a, it's not literal. You're not literally pushing anything away. You are just in your mind kind of segregating that specific problem and saving it for later. Because when you are super emotional, when you are in those really heavy, very strong emotions, you're probably not thinking clearly and you probably can't deal with the situation as best as possible. So if you are able to mentally distance yourself from whatever you're going through, again, when you come back to it, there will be less emotion, less distress. You'll be able to think through things more clearly as opposed to acting on those emotional impulses, which is definitely something that people with BPD deal with. People who are borderline deal with a lot of emotions and we act off our emotions quite often. So this can be very helpful to remind you to just take a step back, think about it, take some time, then you can go back to it. But you don't want to instantly react on your emotions. The T in ACCEPTS stands for thoughts. And this is when you give yourself something to think about that's like very repetitive to get your brain off of what you were thinking about currently. Now this could be you're counting, you could count all the objects in the room, you could just decide to count by fives up to 100, whatever it is. You could recite a song. It's these types of things that are very repetitive. They don't require too much thought or effort, but they require enough thought and effort so that way you can't think about the other thing, if that makes sense. You literally just kind of get your brain into like rote memory and you think about the numbers or whatever it is. You think about the song, you think about whatever it is that you're constantly repeating in your head so that way you don't think about whatever distressing situation that you're in. I will note though that you need to make sure that whatever you're thinking about for these thoughts is something neutral. You don't want to recite a super sad song to yourself. You don't want to go and like think of all of these terrible, horrible things or anything like that. You simply want to think of something that's very neutral, and that's why counting is one of the more popular ones, because if you're literally just like counting ceiling tiles or counting people that walk by or whatever it is that you're counting. That's a very neutral thing, and it's not going to add to your emotional state. Instead, it will help you bring yourself down to a more neutral, calm emotion, if that makes sense. And the last letter in this acronym is S, and that stands for sensations. This means that if you are dealing with any sort of extreme emotion, you find a safe sensation to get you out of it. And a lot of times this means going and find something cold. If somebody is very, very angry, holding an ice cube in their hand will do much more to release that anger than they probably think. Cold is very easy, so that's why people will hold ice cubes, splash cold water on their face, those sorts of things. And it's almost like a shock to your system. You're focusing on that physical cold sensation as opposed to whatever's going on in your mind. Now, it's very important that you don't hurt yourself with these sensations. This is not you trying to do something to your body to hurt it, so that way you get your mind off of the mental hurt. That's self-harm, that's something different. This is just you seeking out some sort of safe sensation. Again, cold is the one that I go to the most because it's not going to hurt you, but it's very effective at like shocking your system and shocking your brain. So you need to find a safe sensation to distract your brain. Again, holding an ice cube can be very helpful. Sometimes people just hold them in their hand. You may put them to like your neck. People splash cold water on their face. They may take a cold shower. That's what works for me. So that's kind of what I'm telling you guys. I haven't found any other sensations that really are able to kind of take me out of the emotions as fast as cold does. But if you have any suggestions, please let me know below. And that is the ACCEPTS acronym, the first acronym I'm sharing with you guys from DBT. Now, because I am diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, I love DBT. I love a lot of their coping skills, clearly. I love a lot of what it teaches. And I actually have an entire DBT workbook that I will probably be bringing out and working with you guys at some point, because I think that yes, DBT was created for people with borderline personality disorder, but can be so helpful to literally everybody. It could be helpful to people dealing with other mental illnesses. It could be helpful to people not dealing with any mental illness, but just having a hard time right now. Like literally anybody dealing with any sort of emotion, which is anybody because we're humans and we have emotions, can be helped by this type of thing. And that's really why I love to share it with you guys. But I specifically wanted to share this video today because it is Christmas, and Merry Christmas to all of those who are celebrating. I hope that you are having the best day. Please stay safe, eat a bunch of crap, watch some really good Christmas movies, just enjoy your day. I really hope that you enjoy your day. But I also know that a lot of people have a really hard time on the holidays, and I wanted to give you guys at least a few skills that you could use if today isn't a good day for you. I hope that you are able to enjoy your day to the best of your ability, whether you celebrate or not, whether you enjoy today or not. I hope that you have a good day, whether or not it is Christmas to you or just another day in December. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this video. I keep saying it and I'll keep saying it again and again because your support means everything to me. It's just, thank you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it more than I could ever explain. This is the part where I tell you, if you haven't already, to smash that like button for me, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that way YouTube will hopefully tell you when I post new videos. I post videos twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. and you don't want to miss any of them. If you have any questions, comments about anything I said today, any videos you'd like to see in the future, any specific DBT concepts or anything like that that you would like me to go over, just let me know. Leave them down in the comments below and I will definitely do that for you guys. Again, thank you so much. I hope that you guys have an amazing day today, whether it is, again, just Christmas or another day in December. I'll see you next time.